I finally picked up some lights and put together a little makeshift video studio, so now I can record things later in the day when the sun's not out. Also, you don't hear dogs barking, but I am still figuring out the lighting situation, and I am still trying to figure out the table and everything else, so it's not really that pretty right now, but I hope to improve things along the way. But before talking about this thing, let's talk about something that I totally missed. I did have these antennas from Emax. These are their new antennas that I am calling the Mini Max. I mean, they should really just ask me for the name next time because it just makes more sense. I don't know what their actual name is, but I thought Min E Max was a fantastic name and a missed opportunity. So as soon as I opened the box, I'm like, oh my God, it's a Mini Max, which is, I think is a great name. Anyways, compared to the TBS antenna that I typically use, it's really, really small. I'm sure you've seen other reviews about them by now. And this is what I was comparing against the DJI system in the DJI video. It does, I'm the worst tester for antennas. I'm usually pumping out 800 milliwatts and I'm flying alone, so I really don't typically have video issues, but this thing works at least as well as any other antenna that I've used, so I'm not really concerned about that. And I really like the fact that it has this bendable stem and it really holds up like its shape really nicely. Anyways, I'll talk about it more in other videos, but let's first get to this thing. So this is the Cinecan. I am not the biggest fan of Cinewhoops, as I say in every video, but this thing is somewhat notable. And the reason why I'm saying it's somewhat notable is because the Mobula HD, which had the split or something on board, that thing was one of the best performing Cinewhoops that I have used, except that it was made by Happy Model and it was using the Happy Model all-in-one board underneath, just like this one. And the Happy Model boards, originally when I first started using them, way back when they were 1S and 2S, and they were performing really well and they were really reliable. But I have to point out that just right up front that this is the main issue that you'll probably have with this quad, and I have had with the Happy Model all-in-one board products after they became really popular. So they burn out. They burn out readily. They burn out as soon as you plug in a battery. And this one doesn't even have the capacitor built into the power lead anymore. I don't know why they removed it. This isn't even this is, I believe, the most recent board. Yeah, this is the most recent all-in-one, the Crazybee board that they have put out, I believe. Yeah, I think if it's not, I'll put it on the screen, but I'm pretty sure it is. This is a 10 amp, I think 4S board, but this quad is designed to be a 3S quad. It's using 1102 motors, 7,000 kV, at least it says 7,000 kV, who knows what the actual kV is. It's the same 1102 motor you've come to know and love on all of the Happy Model products, and it is an astonishing 90 grams all up weight with the 300 milliamp 3S battery that it comes with. It is not an acrobatic beast by any means, and it does have a tarsier on board, and I'll talk about that in a second, but let's talk about the flight performance first. The flight performance of this thing is, it actually flies pretty well for a Cinewhoop. The last Cinewhoop that I tried that I liked, I don't really like any of these Cinewhoops, but the one that I actually liked was the iFlight Cinebee 4K. And I like that because it really just had surprisingly good performance for a Cinewhoop. And you could take the prop guards off and it gave you a little bit more performance without prop guards. Even with the prop guards on, you had a lot of space for the props to breathe, so it didn't feel like it was being restricted by the prop guards, and it actually performed surprisingly well. However, it's not a cheap quad at $200 and something, but this one is not a cheap quad either. I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So it's pretty much a trash can without the trash can camera and everything on board. It does have the same trash can, I believe, trash can VTX on top, which is nice. And there's something I would like to point out right up front is that if you take a look at where the all-in-one board is, it's actually underneath the tarsier boards. So what you're looking at there on top, those are the tarsier boards. And then underneath that is the all-in-one board. And if you look underneath, you have access to the USB port and as well as all the plugs for the motor, but you don't have access to the binding plug. So the binding button is actually right in the middle of the board, right on top there. So the only way to bind this board is to go into the CLI and input the command for binding. Now there is a version of this quad that comes without a receiver, and I think you are going to have to take the whole thing apart to put the receiver in. Taking this thing apart is not going to be super easy because the all-in-one board is a 1 inch by 1 inch platform, and the tarsier camera is a 20 by 20. And once again, the VTX on top of everything is a 1" by 1" platform. So they have a little makeshift thingamajigger in there to convert the platforms back and forth. And so the video transmitter is actually screwed into the top plate. So if you break this thing, it's not going to be fun to fix it. But okay, the performance is fine. It's not the best, but it's totally fine for Cinewhoop. It actually doesn't have washout. It has enough power for what it does. You can't really fly it like an acro machine, and it's not really made for an acro machine. It's a Cinewhoop, so you can fly it like a Cinewhoop. And really, the defining factor of this compared to all the previous Whoop kind of products from Happy Model that Eachine rebranded or whoever rebranded is that it has the tarsier on board, and you can see that it has this ND filter as well. I think this ND filter might come with the tarsiers nowadays. This ND filter is an attempt at reducing the jello on the camera. I don't know why it covers both the FPV camera as well as the HG camera. I think it would have been a great option if they had just made it for the HD camera, but who knows why China does some of the things that they do. Anyways, the tarsier camera is not something new anymore. In my opinion, I think it is the best split type product. However, the user experience is absolutely awful. It is an absolutely awful user experience. To get this thing to work, you pretty much got to plug it in, fiddle with the buttons, get it to turn on the Wi-Fi, connect to the Wi-Fi with your phone, and then go into the settings, turn off electronic image stabilization. I recommend using 2.7K 30 frames per second. And then you have to format the card, the SD card inside there to get it to actually record properly. And then you have to set it up to auto record, because who knows what these stupid buttons do when you click them to get anything to happen on the tarsier board. So it's just an awful user experience. And also, I've had issues where mine doesn't actually save the recording file if I unplug before it like loops to the next video, or if it actually saves, or if I don't click the button to save the file, sometimes it doesn't save the actual file that it was recording. Another thing I want to point out about the tarsier is that, in my opinion, I think it has one of the very best FPV views of all cameras. I wish that they would make a nano camera with exactly this sensor and exactly this lens. I think that would be a fantastic product, as long as it's not glitchy like unfortunately some Cadex cameras are. I think that this camera, the FPV view, is second place to the Micro Eagle. In fact, I think it's better than the Micro Eagle in some ways. I really mean that truthfully. Unfortunately, my DVR did not record the flight properly. It came out as a corrupt file, so I didn't put it here. But every other, or most of the other videos that I've done with the tarsier on board, including the Cinebee flight of the iFlight Cinebee thing, does have the FPV view in there that you can see, and you can see that it does look really nice in the DVR. However, you can't really tell things from the DVR. I'm telling you that I really like the FPV view, and if Cadex is listening, and if they listen to anything anybody says, I would really hope to see this sensor and this lens in a nano camera product, which I think would be fantastic. Anyways, if you are looking for a product like this, you already know if this is for you or not. I personally do not like any of these Cinewhoops. I think that their throttles are very unpredictable. I think their performance is not acrobatic performance, and I prefer flying acrobatic flying, so I just don't think that these products are necessarily for me. But this one is probably as good as it gets in terms of Cinewhoop size versus performance. It is smooth. The all-in-one board performs fine, actually performs very well. However, I would be weary of it burning out, because it is, after all, a Happy Model product, and a lot of Happy Model things struggle with quality control, and so keep that in mind. It is not cheap. It is $200. However, for that $200, you're pretty much paying for the tarsier, which is $90, plus the trash can, which is essentially all this is a trash can with a different canopy on top. So you're sort of just paying the same money, and you get this setup with the tarsier built into it. So that's about it for now.